Welcome to Marshall Secrets.
I'm Lawrence Kane.
I'm Kris Wilder, and you've tuned into Marshall Secrets, or stumbled upon us, or found us, or caught us on iTunes, or somebody told you about us, or you just got lucky one day. I don't know. One of those things happened, but you're listening to us nonetheless. What do we cover in this episode, Lawrence?
Well, let's see. We've got Teacher with Tourette's.
Teacher with Tourette's. I'm going to like that.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Pop second. Tag team training.
And polyvinyl chloride?
Polyvinyl chloride. And also, it happened at the stadium. And this involves a cop, a pen, a porta potty, and some Mary Jane, yes, it does. Yes, it does. They used to call it on Dragnet. Hey, what's the deal with the teacher with Tourette's?
Well, she didn't actually have Tourette's. But,
oh, wow.
But it got people's attention. So there's a teacher in Pennsylvania, I think it is. Her name is Natalie Monroe, and she had a blog. And apparently, when you have a blog and you're a public school teacher, calling a spade, especially when you use profanity to do it, is not a good thing.
Oh, she used profanity?
Yes, she did.
Do you have quotes, my friend?
I have quotes, although the quotes that they actually published in the paper didn't have the profanity. They just said that she used it.
Well, then that would meet with our code of ethics here, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. So let me give you an example of what she. Apparently, the blog's been taken down, but you can still find it cached and whatnot.
Yeah, sure.
According to the news article, she wrote, "My students are out of control." Monroe, who has taught 10th, 11th, and 12th graders, wrote in one post, "They are rude, disengaged, lazy whiners. They curse, discuss drugs, talk back, argue for grades, complain about everything, fancy themselves entitled to whatever they desire, and are just generally annoying."
You know what, though? You know what's interesting about that is that is absolutely the antithesis of the students that we have at the dojo.
It is.
Well, because of course they're self-selected. You know,
true. Well, remember, when you're teaching in a public school, everybody has to be there. When you're teaching in a dojo, it's people that want to be there.
Yeah, it's a self-selected thing.
And they're paying for it.
Yeah, I got people in there. You know, I got kids that are competitive swimmers and other things of that order. But yeah, so there you are. There's the call. So she calls it out. Does she say more or?
Oh yeah, there's lots of posts. Another one, kids. They're disobedient, disrespectful oafs. Noisy, crazy, sloppy, lazy loafers. She also comes up with a colorful list of comments that she felt should be available on student report card. Yeah, that could be kind of amusing.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah, that would be. You know, it's that whole public teaching thing. That is just a hard. I mean,
it's tough.
I have a hard. I mean, I don't want to make too much of it. I mean, you know, I have a pretty. Well, let me put it this way. It takes effort to come up with a lesson plan. Sometimes it probably doesn't look like I have one, but I do have one. And then the other thing is that when I've had disruptive students, whether they be adults or children, it's like, you can't be here.
Yeah.
You can't do that and be here. I had one adult, you know, it's like, listen, man, you can't do drugs and train here. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And you know what he chose?
He left.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure who you're referring to, and
I don't want to say. I don't want to say. Yeah, I don't want to say.
But you know no, that's all right. I didn't ask you. The interesting thing is, when I taught at technical college, and several of the people that I taught with, or worked with in the, I taught evening courses. Several people taught during the day, and we actually had conversations around, because most of these folks were recent high school graduates that we were teaching, and we had conversation around, if you're teaching in a high school, it's a captive audience, and you have to teach the lowest common denominator in a lot of cases, and it's really a challenge because you have this disruptive stuff, and this was years ago. It's not like it is today where discipline is really, really challenging.
Hey man, I grew up in a school system where, I mean, we still got spanked. I mean, you got taken out in the hall and you got a board put across your butt.
Yeah.
That got banned, of course.
Well, of course.
But I'm not sitting in therapy over it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but I do know. No, I'm kidding. No, seriously. The couple times I got whacked, I deserved it, and I stopped doing that stuff. Man. Yeah. And the thing is, there's extremes on both sides. But when everybody, we've had the discussion previously. Everybody gets an award for showing up. I mean, some of what she's saying. I mean, yeah, it's not really cool to talk about your kids that way. But you know what? In a lot of public schools, because it's real challenging to have the discipline, because the parents aren't engaged, et cetera, there really are a lot of people like that. The cool part, though, is that when you're teaching martial arts, the ones who show up generally aren't like that. And when they are, you can do something about it. I mean, after all, I don't want to be responsible for teaching potentially lethal skills to some hooligan, right?
No,
you know. And so there's a little bit, you got to kind of balance that finding folks with character and helping them grow and learn these skills versus, just earning a living, right?
It's a hard thing, and I just really kind of I commend her for doing this because she's calling it out. Now I don't know that you were really there's really no solutions offered there except for her unknown list of suggested other types of criteria where I suppose you could probably they'd be like maybe like disruptive, malcontent, poorly focused. I mean, but
yeah, well, the interesting thing is, I mean, she's been suspended. She apparently there's a big online community of there's a bunch of folks in the media who've come on with this story, and there's a Facebook group of people who back her, and another one for people who want her fired and all that kind of thing. And the challenging part is, really, if the kids aren't motivated and the kids aren't doing a good job and the kids aren't learning, why not focus on how to fix that instead of focusing on firing somebody who points it out? Maybe she gets a slap on the wrist for not doing it in a very, effective way.
It's the culture we live in, Lawrence, where accountability is not important.
Yeah. And, you're right. I mean, that's the thing. It's really hard to get rid of a teacher who's incompetent. It's really easy to get rid of a teacher who says something inappropriate and non-politically correct. It's kind of sad.
Well, again, how does this apply to the dojo? I'll tell you how it applies to the dojo is that this is really interesting is that if I taught at a YMCA, I probably would be terminated for such a thing. And they could do it. They could just say, well, you don't work here anymore. That's fine because they're a private company and they can do that.
Sure.
Now, me as a standalone school, I've told people you're not welcome here anymore, and they're like, well, and they look at it with the school entitlement that I have a right to be here. I'm supposed to be here. I have a right to be here, and you have to put up with my stuff. And the answer is no. You've forgotten. At the end of the day, I'm codified as a business by the state.
Right.
And therefore, I have the right to refuse service to anybody for any reason, and you have matched that criteria.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know of at least one example where you've tossed somebody out because he was getting off on hurting other kids.
Oh,
and,
yeah,
and
that was. But I will say this, before, I mean, just to not make it sound like I'm just pitching people out the door all the time, but it does have its place. And I will say, in that particular instance, I know the one you're talking about. I talked to the kid on several occasions. I talked to the parent separately, and I talked to the parent with the child. So there were, I'm going to say maybe 4 or 5 specific conversations that were about that. But here's the deal, and I think this is really an important follow-up because this is a marker to the quality of that father. Mm-hmm. He couldn't get his kid to stop doing that stuff in the dojo, so he got asked to leave. Well, about probably 2 weeks later, they showed up, and the son had written a letter in his own handwriting about what he had done and how he was going to take a new attitude into his soccer, which he was doing, instead of, I'm going to hurt people, I'm going to play the game sort of thing. They brought me a gift sweatshirt, and the kid apologized. And it was like, you know what? You're welcome back anytime.
Right, and what you've done, I'm glad you shared that story because what you did there is by having the freedom to do things the right way, you've actually impacted that kid's character in a positive way. He's going to grow up a better person. Whereas, imagine the same thing in a public school, right? It's going to be one of two things. Either he's going to get suspended and go to another school and do the same thing, or they're just going to ignore it and do nothing. And you did the right stuff. You had the right conversations with the teacher and the kid, and he actually learned something from it.
Oh,
And he probably helped the parent out.
Parent the kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe at the end of the day, that's how it turns out. I don't know, but anyway.
I'd be surprised if it doesn't turn out well. I mean, it might not, but I'd be surprised if it doesn't.
Yeah, but all I've got to say is that this teacher from Pennsylvania, I like the cut of her jib. It's tag team training, Lawrence.
Tag team training.
Yeah, and this is something that we run into at the school quite a bit at the dojo, and I want to share it with other people. Is that we have got a huge array of physicality, different kinds of, we've got endomorphs, ectomorphs, mesomorphs. So we got all of these spread all across the board. I've got small Filipino women, they're never going to see 5'2".
Yeah.
It just isn't going to happen. But man, I'll tell you what, when when the go button gets pushed, look out, they are good to go. But then I've got other people that are big, physically big. I had one guy that was over 300 pounds training there for a while. How do those two individuals match up? And that's the training tip, is that it's okay to mismatch people, because that's what's going to happen in the real world anyway.
That's right. There are no weight classes and no gender classes in a real fight, right? In fact, generally speaking, you're going to be going against somebody who is bigger, stronger, tougher. I mean, no one's going to attack you that doesn't think they're going to win.
No, absolutely. They have a set of skills that they have used successfully, and they have used it on people who they think they can win with, and they have demonstrated they can win with it, and they're going to use it on you because they believe they can win.
Exactly. Unless they're suicidal. I mean, let's face it, there are...
That's the death by cop thing.
Yeah, exactly. But and some of your students are cops, or in drug enforcement.
Oh man, they're SAS, baby.
Not that I know of, but point is that while most of us won't be in that kind of situation, it does happen. I just wanted to be holistic. But the thing is that teaching to a mismatch on occasion is a really good thing. You can't do it all the time, or the smaller, weaker person is going to get pretty frustrated, because it takes a certain level of skill to defeat somebody who's larger. I mean, I remember there's this guy named Mike when I was taking judo. And I was, I think, a yellow belt when he first started. And for the first, he probably outweighed me by almost double. Mm-hmm. Really big dude. I was a tall, skinny kid. You might have called me a spider monkey.
What happened to you?
Yeah. And Mike was built more like you, big, stocky dude. And I remember for the first several months, I could easily defeat him. Whatever it was in Randori, I'd win. By the time he became a yellow belt, and I was getting close to being a green belt, never beat him again, because he had enough strength and enough size that with that little bit of skill, all of a sudden I couldn't do anything anymore. And while it was kind of fun to practice against him occasionally, if he'd been my partner too often, it probably would have driven me to quit, because at a certain point, there wasn't enough of a skill differential to overcome the fact he was so much bigger and stronger than I was.
Well, I had a guy I used to train with in judo, and he was 6'3", 260. And, we used to, and he's a Seattle PD guy, Seattle police officer, and he was also a former military.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is that, I got to tell you this story. Well, first off, we would wind up oftentimes at tournaments competing against one another. I never beat him in a tournament. I remember I came within a quarter point one time, but I never beat him because he outweighed me, and we trained together almost exclusively at the dojo all the time.
Right.
But I have to
he knew your stuff.
Oh yeah, and he knew my stuff, and I knew his, and it was just that's the way it was. I mean, we were good friends. We got along with each other pretty well. Not like we were hanging out at each other's homes, but you get the picture. You roll with somebody, you know them.
Right.
And I got a choke on him, and he was on his back, and I got the choke on him, and it wasn't sinking in. I couldn't get it to go. So what I did is I pivoted off to the side and I put the back of my left thigh against the side of his right head, and I had my right hand on the far lapel. So what I'm able to do now is I'm able to pull with my arm and push his head away with my thigh.
Right.
So I'm doing that. So I reach up and I'm doing that and I'm pulling on him, and now I've got enough where I can get both hands on the lapel, and I've got both hands on the lapel, and I'm pushing with my thigh, and I'm rearing back. Now this is my entire body on his neck, and all I hear from him is, and he's not going out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it can be really challenging, and it can be really frustrating. I saw it as a challenge and something to try to be creative with. But I'll tell you what, man, if you're hovering around a green belt, blue belt, or something like that, and you're bouncing up against that same big person every time, that mismatch is going to become pretty frustrating because you don't have enough skill to kind of get around.
Yeah, I mean, once you're there, once you're at the higher ranks, absolutely. And in fact, if you're not pushing yourself against these, and when I was in, use another judo story. When I was in judo, I actually was training at the Boys and Girls Club in Bellevue, and then I go over to Seattle Dojo once a week. And every time I had the chance, I'd go pick on a black belt. Two reasons. One, I knew I was going to learn a lot. And two, I knew they weren't going to hurt me.
Good point. They weren't going to, yeah.
And that's when I learned the most, actually, because when I was with the other kids who were about my age, I didn't learn like I did when I was going out there and finding random black belt I've never met before, and just game on. And didn't win a lot, but I learned a ton.
So I think the training tip, if we bring the conclusion of the training tip down, is that the mismatch of size and gender is a good thing, but it has to be done in the context of a person's rank and also the frequency in which that training takes place.
Yep,
I think that's what we're talking about.
You got it.
Yeah. At the dojo. This is just a really simple little thing that I have done, and it's a great little trick. Just went down the local hardware store. I needed some foam pads, so I got some PVC, polyvinyl chloride.
There you go.
I got some PVC pipe, just the white pipe you use for
Schedule 40 PVC.
Schedule 40 PVC, and then I got some foam wrap that you would use to
pipe insulation.
Yeah, pipe insulation.
Gray or black.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Slipped it over the pipe, cut it to length, and then I wrapped it in a couple colorful tape.
That would be duct tape.
Well, not duct tape. I use some different colors.
Well, come on, duct tape holds the world together, man.
Yeah, but it makes for a great training tool. Now you can go get these. You can buy these much larger ones that are kind of a big long cube triangle, and they're 4x4 whatever with real soft foam padding, all that kind of stuff. That's great. But these ones have got a little bit more reality of bounce to them. And I've got one that I use that is actually green, and the kids call it the evil pickle. And I come around and I hit them on top of the head. They have to do the head block to make that thing work. But it has the consistency of a forearm instead of like a big mushy pad.
Right, right. So they see this big old green pickle from hell coming at their head. Give them some motivation to throw that block out well too, right?
And it's not too soft, it's not too hard. It's the Goldilocks rule. It's just right.
Right.
And they can hit that thing, and they can hit it with some power and some consistency, and know that it's not going to hurt them. And they love calling it the evil pickle.
Right.
And
if they miss, it's not going to hurt them either, right? So,
no.
It's that's a neat trick. By the way, for those of you who want to emulate that, there are two kinds of PVC. There's the heavier stuff, Schedule 40. There's the thinner stuff, which might be Schedule 20. Don't remember.
It's 80.
Is that the thinner one's 80?
No, it's 40, 60, 80.
Okay.
So 20 is the thinner.
Yeah. Don't get the thinner stuff.
40 and above.
Yeah, because the thinner stuff, if you hit it hard, you will break the PVC, and then it becomes sharp. And the foam doesn't work so good. So to get Schedule 40, it's got nice flex to it, for working with kids.
Yeah.
The really heavy stuff, the gray stuff, doesn't flex enough. That'll hurt. But
and I've got some long ones too that I've made, which are like 5 feet long and so forth. And there's a lot of other things you can do with those, but oftentimes I just stick my lips on it and blow like a trumpet. It makes a great sound. Lawrence, what time is it, my friend?
It's free space time.
Free space. Hey, I want to talk about this. Lawrence and I have talked a lot about a lot of goofy things that have happened to him at the stadium. And so I always have to say, hey, Lawrence, tell that story. Hey, Grandpa Kane, will you tell us the story again? but I want you to tell this story because it is just it's just the epitome, underscore, bold, italicized, whatever of, boy, that was not a very bright thing to do. So go ahead. What?
Yeah. So, well, there's a lot of those, but the one in particular we're talking about. So first of all, when you're at pretty much any Pac-10 stadium,
Pac-12.
That's right.
Yeah,
Pac-12
you're dating yourself, baby.
That's true.
Welcome to our Colorado and Utah
resist
listeners.
Change. Yeah. Change. No. So, all right. At any college football stadium, put it that way, bringing illegal drugs in is probably a bad idea.
Illegal. Bad?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, illegal bad. So the problem with some of them are kind of hard to detect, but marijuana is pretty easy because it's got a fairly distinctive smell. And if you're smoking, if you're smoking pot in the porta potty,
because that's where you'd want to do it because it's such a luxurious atmosphere.
Have
you ever been in those porta potties at the end of the game? My God, it looks like Normandy in there.
It smells like Normandy in
Jeez.
there. Oh man, no, it's nasty. And yes, I try to avoid those to the extent possible.
I mean, you go in there and it's like, how did you get that up there? I'm amazed. But anyway, so
all kinds of bizarre things happen at football games with drunk, college kids. But so anyway, on many occasions, we've walked past the porta potties, and you can smell it, and then you see which one it is because it got little vents on the top, and you see the smoke coming out. It's really obvious, right? So we get down there,
but if I can't see you, that means you can't see me. Is that right? Is that the way that's supposed to work?
I suppose if you're high, that would make sense.
Okay,
yeah.
Right.
If I'm in the porta potty, they can't see me. No one will know. So it's an outdoor stadium. But it's really obvious when someone's down there smoking dope, and you know where they are. And so we'll go get a cop, and the cop will sit and wait till whoever it is decides to come back out. Well, in this particular instance, the guy who I happened to grab, he's actually I think he's retired now, but at the time he was like a 20-some-odd year veteran, right? He's a sergeant and been with the force for a long time. And he comes over and he's like, oh, God, not
Now,
again.
let me get this right. There's people banging on the porta potty wanting him to get out of there, right? Is that what's going on?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I skipped a step, didn't I? So I get the cops. The cops are coming, and this guy's got friends who are outside who are seeing us coming, and they know what's going to happen. And so they're like pounding on it and giving his name. I don't remember what the kid's name was, but
we'll call him John because it matters.
Call him John.
It's a John.
All right. So John, the cops come. You got to get out, right? And the guy's like, I'm not done yet, man. Hang on. And I don't do the stoner voice well, but it sounded like...
I don't think it's something to aspire to.
Probably not, no. I mean, it sounded like one of these TV shows, I mean, it's just... And the guy's like, dude,
Dave's
relax, man.
Dave's not here.
Yeah, Dave's not here, yeah. Wonder how many people will get that reference.
Yeah.
But anyway, so these guys are like pounding on the door going, they're coming, right? And as we get closer, they just scatter. And so the guy, the cop comes over and he, kind of pounds on the door, says, come on, kid, come on out. And of course the kid's ignoring him, thinking either he's one of his friends or whatever. So he looks at me, looks at that and goes, not again. So what he does is he takes a pen out of his pocket, and there's a little hole on the door of the porta potty.
Yeah, those aluminum latches.
Yeah, where you can padlock them. In between events, you don't want people doing stuff in there, right? So he takes his pen and he slides it through the little hole. So the guy's now locked in there. And he goes, "Let me know when he's desperate to get out. I'll be back." And he leaves. And so I've got one of my guards is hanging out down there, and it's literally like half an hour later, the guy starts trying to get out, and he can't. and he starts freaking out and pouting, help, let me out, you know? And so the guy lets me know, and I bring the cops back down.
And you just look at the cop and go, you know, your criminal is now cooked to perfection. Yeah, he's ready to come out.
Exactly.
It's like a butterball turkey. The little red thing has come out.
Yeah. He's ready for you, man. So they get down there, and the guy pulls the pen out, and you know, and the guy stumbles
bursts out of there. Yeah.
He stumbles out, and his eyes are all red, and he's, you know, and his face is a little red too. And he's, you know, like staggers out, and he's like, I couldn't get the door open, man. I must have taken some bad drugs. And they're like,
and he says this in front of a cop.
Well, actually about 4 of them. Because at this point more have shown up. And so anyway, they search him, and he's got a baggie that's, I don't know, probably, you know those big, like 2-gallon size or whatever they are, you know, the really large Ziploc things.
It's what I like to call intent to distribute.
Yeah, that's pretty much what he was charged with.
Oh,
and his day went downhill from there. Let me put it that way. But it was one of these things that, you know, a younger officer would have probably been pounding on the door trying to get the guy out. And this guy's like, just, you know, let me know when he's ready. Stuck the pen in and left. It was hysterical.
That's a beautiful story. I love that. Hey, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, Lawrence, what's the best way to do it?
Best way to do it.
Let me give them your home number.
Yeah. My email address, lakane@ix.netcom.com, or you can go on Amazon and find my author page off of any of my books, and there's a link there so you don't have to remember the email address.
And you can reach me at kwilder@quidnunc.net. That's QUIDNUNC.net. Or you can just go to the westsaddlekarate.com, the website, and you can reach me through the contacts there. Lawrence, again, I think it's been an absolute delight having you here. Love that people are actually listening to our fevered ramblings and hopefully finding some value in them. And until next time,
be safe, everyone.
And be well.
Nice work.
Hi, this is Kris Wilder from Marshall Secrets. Marshall Secrets is free, but it's not costless. So tell your friends about Marshall Secrets. Your good words are the best endorsement we can have. Also, if you like what you hear, buy one of our books, buy one of our DVDs. We think they're pretty good, and we think you'll find value in them too. As always, we appreciate you listening and your support. You can find us pretty quickly by just going to Amazon.com, typing in Lawrence Kane or Kris Wilder, and you can find all of our books and DVDs there. Thanks for listening, and be well.